This is a collection of rare thoughts from Kapil Gupta Twitter feed. As a byproduct of the genius by which man has been created, the truth is that there is not a single thing that any human on the planet cannot afford, no matter the price. Man's real problem is in failing to recognize that which he can no longer afford. If one has resigned himself to living a simple life in which he has very little and needs very little, freedom is possible for him. If one is not, financial freedom is a prerequisite for freedom. Only once one is financially free can he fully devote his life to true freedom. A man cannot devote himself to feeding his soul until he first feeds his stomach. Warren Buffett may know some things, but there is nothing that he knows that will be of benefit to you. Art cannot be reduced to a formula. If it could, art would become artless. The man who gets paid based upon his technical proficiency will struggle his entire life. The truth is, no human being is in the business he thinks he is in, and very, very few overcome to understand what the world is truly dying to pay them for. 100% of the people that a man devotes himself to impressing, those whose validation he is desperate to gain, do not have the ability to fundamentally transform his state of being. Nothing gives a man what he thinks it will give him. Nothing. Almost all business advice is completely wrong. Almost all life advice is completely fallacious. If one took all the pages of all the books on all subjects, in all the bookstores, across all the nations, there might be 12 sentences of truth. Greatness does not come from logistics, mechanics, procedures, and techniques. It comes, first and foremost, from the genuine desire to be great. If you went to the world's greatest artist, held a gun to his head and a knife to his throat, and demanded that he tell the truth about how he creates his art, he would say, "Look, I can give you an answer if you like, but the truth is, I haven't the slightest idea how I do it." Professional team practices are massive waste of time. They practice in vacuum, creating formations and rotations. They practice that which they already know how to do. The reason? They could not justify to themselves or to management why they did not practice today. Humans and their backup plans. Stay in school? Examine it logically. If a child has a talent and a desire to be a professional athlete, his earning potential is hundreds of millions of dollars, but he should prioritize his homework, which will make him 30K per year. A child who is raised in an indigenous tribe on a remote island in the South Pacific is infinitely more intelligent, capable, and available to life than one raised in a modern industrial society. To give a human practices and ways to improve himself is to lead him farther into the trap that he is already in. The human organism cannot action his way into the ideal and natural state. He arrives there by a genuine willingness to understand the true nature of things. No tree tries to improve itself. No cloud tries to better itself. The only thing that tries to better itself is the one who has been conditioned to believe that the ultimate state is arrived at by way of effort. A human spends his life trying to find ways, fill his time. He spends his time trying to find ways to make it feel meaningful. He uses this meaningfulness to convince himself that he is not wasting his life. And these are precisely the ways in which he wastes it. Life is not too short. It is, in fact, too long. The pervasive fear of mankind is not the fear of death. It is the fear of not knowing what to do with his life. It is not the fear of having too little time. It is the fear of not knowing how to fill it. In order for the mind to recruit all its magnificent capabilities, the vision must be absurd. The vision cannot conform to any definable limitation. This, like all great things, cannot be done by way of prescription. It can only be done by the human who has the DNA for it. The lie that humans have been sold is that if they do X, they will get Y. This is fine for mechanical things, but it is a disaster when it comes to living a fulfilled life. Life is not hammers and nails. It is the color of water and the smell of clouds. If a person seeks to become anything out of the ordinary in this world, he must realize that he is all alone. For anything that he reads or anyone he asks will be a conditioned person, and the conditioned advice he hears will make him conditioned. Everyone is infected by conditioning. The one who seeks the truth is alone. He cannot read books, watch television, read magazines, listen to the media, or speak to experts. For if he becomes infected, he will be sentenced to an ordinary life. A man's work must be so original that even he hasn't thought of it before. The highest paid skill in the world is really a divine creation. A common and utilitarian skill has a definable monetary value, but what monetary value can be placed upon uplifting the human spirit? Art, in all its forms, is and should be the highest paid skill in the world. Spirituality is fundamentally a recreation and procrastination. It is an attachment to ideas that one adorns himself with. The serious man is devoted to that which is immediately practical to where he currently stands, so that he may become effective rather than spiritual. Attached to his desires, a man sees through a clouded lens. Divorcing oneself from wanting things a certain way indeed brings a particular sense of loss, but the wise man recognizes that in order to arrive at a life of perfection, he has no other choice. It is this mind, with its endless cravings, that creates darkness and despondency within a human being. A man's mission here on earth, his only true pursuit, is freeing himself from the darkness of the mind, so that he may avail himself of its pure qualities and become perfect. Competition versus mastery is a zero-sum game. Competing condemns one to a life of fighting over scraps. Mastery places one on a path of ownership. A master arrives at an endpoint in which results can be produced on demand. A competitor forever chases, with no end in sight. A master surpasses all competitors and eventually transcends the need to compete. A competitor never surpasses all his competitors, rather, he becomes them. This is the reason for parity in sports, in business, and in all things. Human performance is not a function of how hard he works, it is a function of who he believes himself to be. Knowing this truth radically alters the way in which he trains and radically reduces the number of viable teachers. This entire society and all its instructors, schools, institutions, and minions is built upon the central idea that the human is an invalid who needs to be spoon-fed. The danger of such a culture is that this is precisely what it has produced. If every human were left naked in the street without a single signpost, direction, or method, without teachers, or helpers, or parents, or well-wishers, a human would not be brainwashed by the idea that he needs instruction, and thus his greatness would lie within arm's reach. Most business, regardless of market cap, are like most humans. They are followers. They move according to the prevailing winds. They listen to experts. They have meetings despite having nothing to say. They work hard in order to justify their existence. Rarity is rare. To my eye, there is no point in pursuing anything unless one seeks pure dominance. Not so that he may count his billions and polish his trophies, but because it is only in seeking legendary status and dominance that one becomes fully consumed. This is a life well spent. In order to see the truth, a man must lose all interest in his opinion about things. Your successes have been limited successes. Understand that your mind compares you against the backdrop of common man. This leads to limitation. Rather, imagine the sort of accomplishment that your mind would feel positively embarrassed to reveal. This is the place to begin. Thank you for listening. For more thoughts like this, please visit Twitter handle Kapil Gupta MD. Goodbye.